I went full-time to refactoring from late 2021 up to today.
You have now 150,000 users.
And in terms of revenues, this year we should do around 400,000 euros. I'm more of an introvert. I'm also like a founder. All qualities that put together are good for doing that.
Luca Rossi is an engineer obsessed with the human side of building software. After selling a startup and leading a team at Translated, one of the biggest and most interesting Italian startups, you can find the interview to the founder here. He decided to jump into a new venture, which is called Refactoring, which is a newsletter, a publication on Substack that I will link below here, where he publishes thoughts and insight and a lot of different things on how you can build software without forgetting humans in the loop. And it's been a huge success with more than 150,000 people following the insight, the essays and the interview to top people like Martin Fowler and Antirez and a lot of other people. Refactoring also grew bigger than just the publication. There is a community, there is a podcast, it's a whole bunch of people helping each other to grow together. In the conversation that we had together with Luca, we explored the beginning of the venture, how the professional life that he had led him to have this kind of new and different approach to his work, and what will be the next step of refactoring. We also saw his cat, which is very cute. Today's sponsor is Pietro Torna. Pietro Torna is a service that was born to help Italians that are all around the world to find the perfect and ideal job for them in Italy. So you can write your compensation, where you would like to live, and fill the form down below so Pietro can go and check if they can find something just for you. And if you're a company looking for very technical and specialized guys, which are maybe hard to find, Pietro is probably the place where you want to look at to find exactly those people. We're considering working with Pietro as Medica ourselves, which is the company that I started. So thank you very much, Pietro, for sponsoring Cosa Sposta, and I highly recommend the service. You can find more details down below. So without adding more, let's see Cosa Sposta for Luca Rossi. Welcome, Luca. It's truly an honor to share the space of the background of refactoring. How are you today?
I'm very good. Thank you, Giulio, for having me. So happy to have this chat.
Right, so let's start from an overall overview of what you're doing. What are your revenues today, a ballpark, how many people are working with you, and how long have you been an entrepreneur at this point in your life?
I will start from the last question. So I've been an entrepreneur, I think, at several different points in my life. So I've been first CTO and co-founder of a startup. Wonderio, right? For almost 10 years, up to 2020. Then I joined, we sold the company, but it was not like life-changing, more of a hire.
It was like,
okay, yes. We are happy that, yes. And I joined larger company as head of engineering.
Which was Translated, right?
Yes. At the same time, I started writing the Refactoring, the newsletter. And then after 1 year at Translated, I said, okay, maybe I can do this full time because it was going very well. At that point, I went full time to Refactoring from late 2021 up to today. So it's been 4 years and something.
Yeah.
In terms of team, we are 4 people, but they're all fractional except myself.
All right.
So, I'm full time on this. And if you sum the rest of the people, it's like 2 full-time employees.
Okay.
And in terms of revenues, this year we should do around 400,000 euros.
Right.
Yeah.
That's impressive starting from a Substack publication.
Yes. I still can't believe that by just writing, about the things that I like and by speaking with great people like you or on the podcast that you have, of course, I had to do that. I can make living out of this. So it's really like a dream.
At this point in your life, you're basically being an entrepreneur the whole time, is it?
Almost, yeah. Except for when I was app manager Translated for like 1 year and something.
Yeah. What's your background during like college or something?
I studied computer science.
Right.
So graduated, got my master's in Rome, and then I started actually the PhD there. But at the same time,
what was the theme of the PhD?
Was databases. Actually non-relational database.
So the question was?
You have to think that at that time, there were several like competing models and approaches to storing data in databases that were like challenging the traditional SQL and relational model. And the exploration was about figuring out if there were like some underlying principles and themes that would help all these systems to work well together as opposed to being silos. And if we could find like an underlying shared model for storing data. And it was very, very interesting. And I started doing that with another friend who eventually would become one of my two co-founders of my startup with Disheng. At the same time, with two other friends, we started working on this startup idea in the travel space. The idea was to let people be able to compare and combine all the different ways to go from A to B. So instead of going to the single website for flights, for trains, from buses, having a single destination.
Like, I think Omeo does
like Omeo, exactly. We started like at the same time. But they raised
great minds.
200 million euros and did not. So for a while, we did both things at the same time. But then after 1 year, I couldn't just keep up with all the stuff that was going on. So I dropped out of my PhD. Just started doing my startup full time.
Your only employee time being very translated, is it?
Yes, yeah, it's really translated only.
From what I observe, it feels like you've been digging into independence the more you proceeded in your career, in a way. So you started as a PhD in a big organization, still small independent part, but still an organization, then a smaller team, and now you're a solopreneur in a way. What is your driver in this? What are you trying to do?
It's not like I have planned, the journey to unfold the way it did. But, as the job said, you can only connect the dots backwards. So maybe you can learn things about yourself and things you are most comfortable with when you look back at the choices that you made. So it's true that I've always kind of chased like independence. To me, it feels more like let's chase things that feel interesting and stimulate my curiosity and feels like great things to do.
What is stimulating your curiosity today?
So let's separate. When I started refactoring and when I went full time into refactoring, I was very curious to try this kind of lifestyle where I could spend a lot of time doing research, reading, speaking with people, clearing my thoughts about a lot of things. Because I think that in over 10 years of doing like high growth startups, VC backed, you're always running and you're always learning a lot of things, but you have very few moments to like stop and consolidate the things that you have learned and think back. So I was already writing the newsletter like 1 hour a day, something like that, as a side gig while I was working at Translated. And I loved the way I was spending that time. And I thought, what if I could do this the whole day or anyway, more than how I'm.
So you felt like kind of an imbalance between doing and thinking.
Yes.
Was it?
Yes, you can say that. Yes.
Regarding this question, you told me before the interview that two things that are attracting you, like gravity on a planet from a small spaceship driven by the refactoring Lucas, is AI and simulation racing. Let's keep the AI on the LinkedIn post. What about simulation racing? What is?
I mean, simulation racing, it's long story. I think we could.
What's the curiosity in it?
We could easily do a full interview or maybe a full Netflix series, just me talking about sim racing. It's an incredible time for sim racing because a lot of real drivers are coming from that space. So they start their career as sim drivers and then transit to becoming real drivers.
Wow.
And the thing is that it's the only domain in terms of esports where the digital version of the sport has exactly the same input devices of the real world sport.
Yeah.
It's like 90% is the same. So if you are good at sim racing, you can translate those skills kind of easily at this point as a real driver. And this is already not only amazing by itself, but amazing when combined with the fact that historically, motorsports has been like the most expensive sport of the world.
Yeah.
So only extremely rich people,
super exclusive,
or people who got into so much debt can afford to get to the highest levels, which means the pool of talent that can that you can draw drivers from is extremely limited. So there is of course an incredible amount of latent talent that cannot get there because they don't have the money.
Yeah, just too expensive.
Yes. And so you see this incredible inflow of drivers coming from the sims, because it's basically free with respect to racing for real. Motorsport world is going like upside down because of this.
If I think 20 years past,
Yes,
of someone who wants to start a magazine about like a CTO magazine,
yes,
that person should have
see where you're
been able to publish that just if he had a large amount of money. Because you had to
Yes.
print stuff, you had
Yes.
to ship it to the newspaper shops, and you had to make a big investment. While Refactoring right now is living off Substack, at least at the beginning.
Yes.
Now it's grown over different medias, and you're basically now like a television, I would say,
Yes.
plus a magazine.
Yes.
And I feel some parallelism
Yes.
between sim racing and what you're doing now. Is it?
It's tech democratizing the access to something.
Yeah, like you had to jump at that height,
Yes.
and now it's
Yes.
here. There is a very interesting article by Gianluca Segato. Gian is one of the brightest people that I know, and he's working at Replit. He wrote like agency right now is the strongest asset.
I agree. I totally agree. I think that hard skills,
Yeah.
I mean, things that you know how to do are increasingly like commoditizing. It still matters a lot. I think that the taste that you have for recognizing like what's good and telling AI, of course, for example.
How do you train that?
I'm
talking about yourself.
Yeah, I think you train that by being exposed to a lot of good things, to the point where you can train your judgment and your taste to recognize what's good. Because it's also a personal thing. It's not like an objective thing, especially if you think at, I don't know, writing, which is what I do. I have my personal taste in terms of what's good writing, bad writing, which might be different from another person. But I think there is no substitute to just pure exposure effect, right? And so taste matters more. And I think what matters even more is just the pure drive to do things, the energy that you put into things, because we are truly living in a moment of history where if you want to do something, there's little that stops you, whatever it is.
Let's talk about Refactoring now.
Yes.
So you have now 150,000 readers.
Yes.
That's the ballpark, right?
Yes.
I'm sure you tried a lot of different stuff to grow your audience, your community. What are the experiments that work better? Like the stuff that move the needle, the cosa sposta.
Cosa sposta. So the things that move the needle changed at different stages of the publication. So in startups, you always say, do things, don't scale, right? And so things that are worth doing, even if
we say hello to program, but yeah, second interview in 2 days that people are talking about PG, all right? So
I mean, that's
at some point,
I'm a writer. I have to mention
it's impossible to skip a guy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when Refactoring was very small, I literally tried to connect with every single reader. That meant I was adding everyone who subscribed to the newsletter to LinkedIn personally, and writing them, hey, and look at you, saying hi. Back when LinkedIn allowed you to search for people by email, I'm not sure you can still do that. I think so.
Yeah, because on Substack you own the emails, right?
You only have emails. One of the things that people don't.
I mean, it's very cool. It's owned media. Like you own the list. It's not like a social media that they own the audience.
The upside, the big upside, is that it's totally owned and more under your control than any other social channel, for example. The downside is that you only have email, and so you have very poor analytics. And
what would you like to have from Substack?
Even just first name and last name. you literally have only the email,
right?
Unless
I never thought about that.
Unless, I don't know, if people already have a full-blown Substack profile or pay for the publication. There are many cases where you do have more information, but default is that you enter your email and it's done. I mean, there are downsides. So this is extremely expensive on a personal level than to reply to everybody, because the thing is, even if the publication is still small, people have this feeling of being a little bit starstruck, because you have been reading someone writing things, and then this guy adds you on LinkedIn, and they were all
kind of cringe.
Happy. It's kind of cringe.
Yes, you're saying
they were super happy on average that I went like the extra mile, to speak with them. And so they it worked not only, to drive more word of mouth and growth, but also to get feedback, really. Talk with customers like we always do for startups. This gathered a lot of ideas and ways to improve.
What have you changed after the feedback that came from those people?
I changed some topics that I wrote about, so I doubled down on things that worked better, like versus. For example, I did not expect that articles about pure like personal growth, productivity, not necessarily like engineering things, would do so well. Instead, when I asked people what they liked the most, they often mentioned articles that were more personal in a way, about my journey, about things that were thinking outside of my previous CTO job, for example.
Which you didn't expect it.
I mean,
you didn't expect it, right?
No, I wrote them because writing is in a way also kind of like therapy. So it helps you so much to clear your thinking by writing.
I agree so much.
That at some point, even if in a selfish way, you have to write about yourself, because the healing and the benefit is so high that it feels like low-hanging fruit.
So
it feels like shitty.
what was the value that you feel that people were seeing in that?
I think there are many lessons that, aside from the specific points that are only like refactory related, people can easily translate to be more productive in doing like anything. And not to say that I'm a guru or that I write incredible lessons, but I think there are like some baseline.
I love that you're saying I'm not a guru with 150,000 followers, man. It's like, no, but it's nothing serious, It's just the size of an Italian city, but it's nothing serious.
No, because it's easy to read what I'm saying, but in the sense that I think that I've written something that is incredibly important. It's not that. It's that I think that productivity, I think it's fundamentally about the same things, whatever you do. Even whether you are an engineer or a writer or in any, at least in knowledge work, it's about many of the same things.
Is there any topic that you deleted, or you just toned it down after the feedback?
I wrote less like technical heavy content about really like technologies. And
That's surprising.
That's surprising at first, but when you think about it, it makes sense, because the deeper you go into like a specific technology topic, the more it will just appeal to a specific subset of people who are actually working with that, as opposed to a general, I don't know, lesson learned or stories or frameworks about management, about running an engineering team, about dealing with underperformers, about productivity. These are like universal needs. And that do not only resonate more and work better for the newsletter, but they also have, let me say, a longer shelf life. So I can take ideas from the articles and reuse them in different contexts, post them on social media, and maybe after 1 year, and they still stand in a way. So it's even more value that down the line I'm creating that way.
You're talking a lot about communities. So the first way to build a community was just interacting with your people.
Yes.
What was next? Because you told me that was very expensive. What was the next step?
Yes.
Ready. So what was it?
I think the next level for growth along the same lines was, rather than interacting directly with every single reader, was working together with other creators and collaborating on things like recommending each other pieces, doing articles together. It's like with recommendations. I mean, when you recommend somebody to a product that you like, that product gets the best friend of one of your best users. Right. And so it's like the highest value person that you can possibly get. And it's the same thing for creators.
So we are now at the beginning of the refactoring story. You're writing to people. You're trying to attract new readers.
Yes.
What was the mindset shift? Because I feel that from that moment in time, you probably had some CTO identity still inside yourself. How was the mindset? How did you shift?
So
what do you recall?
One of the things that helped the most is to have some great examples that I could draw from, because before I started writing a newsletter.
That's your favorite example?
Probably Lenny's newsletter. He was, one of the OGs, really. I mean, in my mind, maybe the OG of Substack.
Yeah.
And
he's so good.
is so good, and he not only about the writing. I mean, he pioneered a way of doing newsletters when almost nobody else was doing that. And together with him, I had another 2 to 3 writers that I really liked, and so I had the very.
Can you share the names so we can link that like in the description?
So I really liked Dan Shipper from Every, who started on Substack, merged with another newsletter, created a joint publication for that. Then there are authors that are not on Substack, so to be fair and mention also them, both in the engineering space and not. So giving examples of people who were really good writers, aside from the business value of that. I mean, Paul Graham, of course, is the first that comes to my mind. There are engineering-specific ones like Rants or Charity Majors.
What about fiction books? Like, do you have a name?
This one, I mean, I'm kind of cheating by doing this answer, but there is
we won't tell anyone except for the whole
voice. The Phoenix Project, a fiction book, but it's about engineering, so that's why I'm cheating. I mean, it's like the authors wanted to give you some really good lessons about collaboration, DevOps, and many things, but they didn't do that with a non-fiction framework book, and they wrote a novel. I mean, they're insane. They wrote a novel about a person in an organization that is able to turn it around, but with characters and people around and stories and fixed stuff that happen. And that was an incredible book to read and inspired me to write, including stories and examples, because stories and examples are the things that are the stickiest with people.
So having a reference of people that were inspiring you has you mold your mindset into the current Luca, I would say. What aspect of your personality you had to leave behind? Like, do you remember a moment in time where you felt, I'm not that person anymore?
One of the things that I believe is that if you have a long experience as an entrepreneur, you have an easier time at going through shifts in what you do, because you identify yourself less on specific skills that you have and more on I'm creating a good value for I'm solving some people problem, which is more universal, and so that part of your identity stays. And so I wouldn't say that has completely changed with refactoring. I still see myself as an entrepreneur who solves problems of people in tech, etc. But at the same time, there are parts that I feel like I'm leaving more behind, and there are days where I feel more comfortable about that. Such as most importantly, my tech skills. Nothing is forever. That is, if I want to go back to doing more technical work because I feel like that's the right core for my life, I don't know, I can go there. There are parts of the skills that are more timeless, that are more about mindset. So the catch up, I think it would be easier than maybe how it feels to me right now. At the same time, I also have to think that I'm learning more things, and then I'm learning probably in breadth, more as a generalist. And I feel that especially for where we are heading with AI and etc., I think being a generalist and knowing a little bit of many things as opposed to one thing in depth, it's probably a better bet.
I love that you define yourself a generalist after being a CTO for 10 years. So you're probably like top 10% percentile of people in the world writing code, but since I feel that you're very ambitious and competitive, you're like, yeah, I'm not like there yet.
Even if you say I'm a CTO, at the later stages of my startup, I was basically not writing any code almost, and my job was more in business than in tech. So it changes all the time. So Adam, there has been a time where I felt I'm in the top percentile of programmers possibly, but it has been very, very small time. Then it went away pretty soon.
We were talking about productivity.
Yeah.
How does a day in Luca Rossi life look like?
I love that you ask this question because one of the things I did not expect going into Refactoring full time, especially, is how different would be my routine, let's say, versus when I was an entrepreneur at my startup. Because when you work on a product, you constantly work on new things, and you do product development that has this has cycles, but cycles around projects and features and new things, right? Instead, content creation is about consistency and being able every week to ship, I wouldn't say the same thing, but there is a cadence, there is a pace, for putting out an article every week, podcast interview every 2 weeks, and stuff like that. This kind of pace acts as an anchor for all kinds of routines and things that have to happen every day or every week. Content creation is way more like creative and dependent on yourself. So the thing is, if you have a team working on software, if you're feeling a little bit down one day, you have a team anyway. Things have their own pace, their own train that goes on anyway. But when you are like a writer, let me say that, anything that bugs you in life, you're going to carry a little bit of that into your work, and you're maybe a little less creative. You're drawing less connections between ideas. And that has a very direct effect on the outcome and the output. So it's a lot more reliant on yourself. So in a way, it's more like being an athlete, where you have to take care of yourself a lot more. Maybe it's just that, I'm older, I'm wiser. It's not like when you're 18 years old, you're always high energy no matter what. So maybe I would have come to the same conclusions even if I was a startup founder still anyway.
Let's go very tactical, because we're curious. What are the top 3 things that makes Luca happy and therefore a good writer?
As I said, there is a strong baseline of personal health, which is something that I completely neglected in the past, but now I'm able to understand way more how just good night of sleep.
How long is a good night of sleep?
I think it's 8 hours for me, but it's not just about the number of hours. It's about the fact that I try to eat not too close when I go to bed, and not to drink and stuff like that. So I'm more of a morning owl, and so I start the day with more energy. And then of course the working out, eating well, and that's the personal.
So that's the base.
Yes, you have to take care of this animal part.
All right. So taking care of the mammal, step 2.
Yes, step 2. What helps me? This is probably more personal, but what helps me a lot is having clear control of my calendar and what needs to happen during the day and during the week. I used to work in a way that kind of every day was the same. That is, I write in the morning before lunch, and then in the afternoon I do product work and stuff that is not writing for a fact.
How long have you lasted in that way?
No, I lasted for a long time. It was probably like more than 2 years.
And then what happened?
What happens is that refactoring became a little more complex. So now we have the podcast, the community. I do some solo videos. I do more things. I work more with partner companies on sponsorships. And so when you do many things, if you want to keep every day the same, what happens is that every single day you do a lot of things, a lot of different things, because every day has to stay the same. So you have to do many different things. And so you do a lot of context switch. And so you never focus really for a long time on something. And it stopped working at the best it could work for me.
It arrived to the maximum of complexity that you could handle, and that you have to
at some
reorg.
Yes, at some point it felt better for me to say, on Monday I only write.
Okay.
And then Tuesday is the day where I try to condense all the calls.
Let me sum up the concept for you and tell me if I'm on the right path. It feels like you work well when you are intentional about your time and you feel that you have one priority per day. Is it?
Yes. And I think we work best when we limit the amount of context switching we have to do between different things.
I feel that.
Because switching between things creates a lot of cognitive load.
Yeah, a lot of friction.
A lot of friction. And so I'm quite confident to say we do our best when we do fewer things.
Sleeping, taking care, being intentional about your time. The top one, the last one.
Do a few things every day possibly, and keeping more slack, more time that is not scheduled for serendipity, and even stopping working earlier than I used in the past. I think down the line, it helped even productivity and doing more things in that smaller chunk of time.
You're now working as a small team. You're not just Luca doing Luca. It's a team of Lucas, the Lucas. And you also work with teammates back in the days.
Yes.
Is there a phrase that sticked with you after an employee told you something you were like, oh?
When I was a CTO, I was very young and it was my first job. And at some point, we did a bigger VC round, and you have to hire, I wouldn't say the adults in the room, but people who are expert about things that can make you level up on things that you're not good at, both technically and some things. And so for the first time, we hired a bunch of people who were older than me, even by a lot.
How much is a lot?
It's almost 10 years.
All right.
Who had I don't know, if I had 5 years of experience in the industry, they had 15, and I had to manage that.
And you were 25?
Yes, yes, around that. Yes. I'm not the most, bold or direct person in the world. I mean, that was very exciting, inducing for me, and I wasn't sure because I felt like I had to prove myself that I was worthy of that I knew as much as they did.
You want to challenge them.
Yeah, and I wouldn't go as far as to say I want to challenge them, but I felt like I had to prove I was worthy of being their boss on their playing field. And so I had, I think, a bunch of hard relationships to navigate for me, and eventually working with, for example, one of these people, they made me understand that it was okay that I knew less than them on their own technical space, and my role was more giving them, being the business spokesperson and giving them context about the vision, what we have to do.
How have you realized that? Is there a turning moment, a conversation, a message, a phone call, something that happened, like the ignition of this thought?
I think I remember a project, a project that we did where I was less involved on a technical level, but more in the direction, because I was extremely busy on other things, and it went super well. And so I thought I need to be into the weeds and the details of this stuff because they know better than me. Maybe I distract them if I'm too involved into how you're doing this and that.
You work for the first years on this project alone.
Yes.
So when I'm in my head on myself, my head does a lot of things, such as telling me, are you sure you're doing things well?
Yeah.
Are we okay with this? Will we ever made it? So how do you deal with that? Like with the negative voice in your head, and how you overcome that? If you can share some tips.
People tend to think about these transitions from when something is a side gig and something becomes full-time, like a very abrupt and all of a sudden moment where you go from zero to hero.
Usually in 10 years, from what I heard.
Exactly, from 0 to hero, but in 10 years. It's not been like that for myself, and it's not been like that for most people I know who have done similar things. That is, I've been doing that for more than a year, like 1 hour and a half, 2 hours a day, alongside my other job. So that already gave me the taste of what it would be like to do only that if I wanted to. One time I even went on vacation from job to do full-time work on refactoring for a week. And then when I went full-time, I kept I was very concerned, not just financially.
But also financially, let's be real.
Also financially, but also the sudden change of routine. So I kept 20% of my time to do some consulting, in part to the same company that I was working before, translated, in part doing some coaching to other engineering managers. And in my head, that had to be a way to earn something more, and also to stay grounded, with the reality of engineering teams, because I was really concerned that I would become one of those ivory tower writers that know nothing about the world and just write things.
The J.D. Salinger of software.
Yes.
And was there any like big win that you remember? Like, yes, I'm getting there.
The biggest win that I always remember is when I launched the paid tier of the newsletter.
I remember that.
Membership, yeah. And I wanted to do that once after I went full time, so I could tell people, guys, it's happening. I'm doing this full time, so I'm creating the paid memberships. If you want to support me, I'll be writing more than ever, be doing more things. We will be launching the community and many things. So if you want to support this work, subscribe. And I got so many paid subscribers, like day one, like more than 100. At the beginning, I had like an email notification for every single guy that unsubscribed. But I think this was one of the most unhealthy thing that I ever set up.
Yeah, you never do.
And so, but at the same time, I thought if I remove these notifications, it's like I lose, the grasp of what's happening. But I gave in eventually and I removed them.
You don't have that anymore.
No, but I still have mail notifications for new paid subscribers.
That's
Because
beautiful.
it's the power of positive thinking.
Yeah,
I like
that.
the new things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was there any of like the famous writers that you were talking at the beginning that at some point shared your work?
Yeah, and not only that, but I
already know the answer, but I want to see your face when you say like.
so when I started the podcast,
Yeah.
it was because I thought it was good for the business, but it was also my selfish, desire to talk with some of my heroes, and some of the people I admired the most.
I never thought about that.
No, right? that hasn't ever crossed your mind that
Never
yet?
occurred.
Okay. So
Let me write that down.
and so even if I know that, the scope of refactoring
Yeah.
is more about engineering management and stuff, over time I've reached out to people that I wanted to interview just because I wanted to talk with them. And what I mentioned Dan Schipper a few minutes ago, I had a podcast episode with them and he was one of my heroes. I mean, really, really was the very first newsletter I paid for. And then I followed his journey as he went full time on that, as he merged with other newsletters and create like a media company. Because the thing is, when you read somebody for such a long time,
How did you felt to talk with him?
it feels like you're speaking with a person who is at the same time a complete stranger, and on the other end is like family. Because not only a friend, but like family. You have to think somebody who you have been reading like every week for years. At some point, you feel like you know him, and the way
Like you already had a relationship with the guy.
Yes, and it's totally asymmetrical. And this guy doesn't know anything about yourself.
Back again to results and things that you expected. Talking about the refactoring journey, what were the experiments that failed very badly? Like the stuff that you expected, like this is going to make a big win, and then it didn't.
Yes. For a long time, I thought I would get more growth and go faster by adding more things, like writing longer articles or writing more articles per week, or adding this or that side product or platform alongside the newsletter for paid subscribers. Like, let's create a page with all my templates. Let's create a list of deals and discounts. But I would say 99% of these things failed. They didn't move the needle.
All right. Why do you think is that?
Because I think, hello? Hey, Pepe.
Ciao.
Nice to see you.
Why do you think the things didn't work, Kat?
Yes. I'm sure he has an opinion. He always follows what I'm writing. So
Yeah, he was just judging.
Yes, he was just judging. So I think that's true with any, product that you use. Most of the times it's not like you want it to do more new things. You want to keep it doing the things that it does well, and possibly that it does them better and better. If a product adds a feature, it's always kind of a bet. That is, maybe you don't need that.
Even just keeping the features that you have is a bet in a way.
Absolutely.
Like not changing is choice.
When you think about that, if you double down on what works,
Yeah.
it's always kind of a safe bet, and there's always something you can do better, as opposed to let's add a completely new thing because I believe that my customers also need that. I've done a lot of mistakes in that part over time, and all the things that really instead mattered were about higher quality writing, better articles, not longer articles, better conversations on the podcast, improving the quality that what I was already doing.
But can you still share one experiment that you felt very bullish about, and then?
Absolutely. I mean, my biggest, I mean, the thing that really broke my heart is that I worked for months on creating what was for me an incredible program of exclusive deals and discounts for developer tools and engineering manager tools, super famous ones. I mean, Stripe, Todoist, Linear, I mean, all developer tools that people really actually used. And to make these deals available to paid members of Refactoring, and when you sum the value, it was more than $100,000 of discounts. And then when we launched it, it totally flopped. I mean, yes, maybe it drove 20 paid subscribers, no, something. It was completely heartbreaking. And I thought maybe I have launched it poorly, maybe I should do more promotion, maybe I should do this or that. But I tried everything and nobody cared.
So I feel that many of the listeners of Cosas Posta are entrepreneurs, but a lot of other people are engineers, designers, product manager, whatever, people that are following other people's path. And often I feel that they're fascinated by independence, something that you truly possess in the bold choices you made, dropping out of PhD, changing from CTO to leaving the company when you sold that, changing from one of the top tech companies in Italy, which was translated, to start your own newsletter as like a full-time job. I feel that you probably have and possess a way to take those kind of leaps.
Yes.
What's your mind when you do that before and after this journey of change?
I think out of these steps, the one that felt the most well thought out, and grounded as a choice has been moving to doing refactoring full time.
Why is that?
The other transitions that I made were about doing things that felt good, but I was younger, didn't necessarily think through things a lot, So the startup went very well. I'm very happy about that, but I knew nothing about that domain, about the travel space. So I wouldn't say I was wise doing that. With refactoring, it felt way more uncertain in a way than the startup itself, because startups, you had these examples. You have a startup ecosystem, life cycle, venture capitalists, etc. While newsletters, I mean, didn't feel like a real job to most people.
So by the way, you felt that this was like a big choice.
I asked why this would be good for me from the point of view of what I'm bringing to the table, why I should be successful doing this, why I should enjoy doing this, how could this fail, how could this succeed. And so I started to connect the dots that I had a solid experience in tech. I've always written, even if not on a regular basis, like on the internet, but I've always taken a lot of notes. I've always liked to write. I'm more of an introvert. I don't care about working alone, basically. I'm also like a founder in the sense that I know how to wear many hats. That is, if I had to run a business by myself, I can have a way around basically all the kind of things that I need to be able to do, right? From thinking about the monetization, design, the writing part. So the fact that I'm a jack of all trades will probably help me doing that. So all qualities that put together are good for doing that. There is this great quote by Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, that says that he feels like he's a mediocre soup because he has decent but not great experience in the business, not great drawing skills, decent humor, but when you put all these things together, they make for a unique thing. And this
Do you feel like that?
No, I don't. I mean, I think he was a bit extreme and hard on himself. But I get his
Kind of his humor, right?
Yes, it's kind of his humor. Yes, so he was playing his character. But I get his point. That is, if you're able to find a way that makes all the things that you do in your life make more than the sum of the parts. So the more you combine different things you've done, the more it's likely that you're doing something unique, that is unique to you. And so I felt maybe this is a little bit unique, the fact that I can run the whole business by myself, I can kind of write, I have a tech experience, I like doing this alone. It's a number of things that say maybe I can do this and not so many other people can do this. I also thought that what's the worst case? If I do this for 1 year and it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
First, I can probably go back to another job. Second, it should have some kind of benefit for my reputation, my network. I mean, there are good side effects anyway. You spend so much time thinking about things and clearing your thoughts about things would have been worth the hustle anyway. If this kind of something that you want to do is worth doing, you should be able to create value and see that even by working 1 hour a day.
Yeah, I agree.
If you're not seeing,
it's part of the design. If it's missing from the design, it won't be there.
So I can't think of a single business idea that you say it can only work and lift from zero to something if I'm full time on that. As hard as it can seem to cut 2 hours a day of your time from your family duties and work, it will never be as hard as leaving your job at time.
Right.
I mean, if you don't have if you can't find the strength to do that,
maybe it's not your thing.
Maybe it's not your thing. It's totally okay. But yeah. I mean, refactoring in hindsight was successful already when I was doing it 1 hour, 2 hours a day.
You write a lot. You were telling me before starting the interview, you basically wrote the amount of words that are contained in the whole Harry Potter saga and a little bit more.
Yes.
Good for you, and a big hello to J.K. Rowling. But if you had...
Who is watching us right
now? Yeah, of course. Yeah, she's a big fan. If we had to narrow it down to just one blog post, like the thing that you say, this is my opus magnum, my thing to the world, and this is the thing that I would like to leave behind me.
Yeah.
What should I link in the description of the video?
It's very hard to answer. I've written more than 300 articles, but I'm particularly attached to some of the more personal ones. Yeah, rather than the technical ones that are more like personal reflections. There is one that I like a lot about the expectations versus happiness, and how our own sense of happiness and being at peace with what to do in life depends a lot on things that we can control, like the expectations that we have on our life and what we should achieve. And
what's the key takeaway here?
I feel that our happiness sometimes it's like the result of the difference between the reality we live in for real and the expectation that we have. Many times we try to we work hard to improve our reality, to earn more, to improve our standard of living and stuff. But we also allow our expectations to inflate. I have to create the 1 billion company, right? Or I take all these things that I have for granted, right? And if you allow that, nothing changes. The delta is the same. And there is an incredible scientific paper that compares the levels of happiness of lottery winners with people who had accidents that left them disabled. There were, lottery winners had these spikes, and people with accidents, of course, these dips. But then gradually over time, they reverted to the same level of happiness before the events. I think because your mind adjusts to things that happen in your life, and then you think that's the new normal, and you don't feel that anymore. So sometimes I think rather than struggling and working a lot to improve your reality in your life, you should strive to stay grounded, be grateful of what you have. So lower your expectations in a way. When you say, I'm grateful for this, it's like saying, I'm not taking this for granted. I'm being intentional in saying, I have this now, maybe I will not in the future. And so my expectations get lower, and I'm more happy for what I'm living.
I'm very happy about what happened today. Also, it's very nice to see where the sausage is made. I've been following you from years. You have a very, very beautiful studio and also a very nice cat. I will link down your blog and everything else. And thank you very much for participating to Cosa Sposta.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for coming to my place to do this. I really appreciate that. And thank you for all the great
Yeah, it's
questions.
been so hard to come in Rome in spring.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Oh,
Yeah, I can't imagine I'm nothing apart.
thank you.
All right, subscribe to Luca's material. It's great stuff.
And watch Cosa Sposta.
Yeah. It's been a very nice interview, and I'm not just talking about Luca's cat. Cosa Sposta is available also on podcasts, both on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and you can subscribe, and you should if you arrive at this point, on YouTube here as well. Thank you very much for being with me in this episode, and let's see each other in a couple of Sundays for discovering Cosa Sposta for my next guest. Ciao!